everybody for attending the Wedmore Parish Council meeting on the 17th of November 2021. I'd like to remind everyone that the meeting is being recorded. First item on the agenda is to receive any apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, from Nadine Landers, Julie Candy, Jonathan Newton, Steve Worrell and Councillor David Huxtable.
Correct. Reports from County and District Councillors. Well, David sent his apologies. I spoke to him earlier. He said he didn't have anything really to report. So I said, don't worry, don't come. All I have to report from District is I've chaired in the last 2 weeks 2 licensing panels for new premises licences, which they come before us because there's been objections, but we awarded both the licences. Item number 3, to record any declarations of interest. Can you have any?
Don't think so, really.
None of those, brilliant. Item number 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of October 21. Is everyone happy? Don't have any major problems, groovy. Thank you very much, sir. Next item, number 5, matters arising. We've got bank signatories.
Yeah, bank signatories, we've agreed that you and Sue Worrell will be co-signatories.
Yes.
And the forms have now been completed and...
Yep, and we're taking them to the bank on Monday.
Yeah.
And the Christmas trees, I believe you've got that in hand.
They're ordered. They'll be delivered to my house next week.
Super duper, that's good news. Item number 6, public participation. I believe we've got Nigel Beacon here to speak to us.
Yeah, okay.
Nigel, the
I'll move
floor is
in the middle
yours.
here,
You've got 3 minutes.
You can see me. I'll keep the mask on, can you all understand me?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm hard enough to understand the best of times. But, my name's Nigel Beacon. I run Future Focus Research, and I have run market research companies for the last 40 years of my life, which is a bit scary. So this is what I do day in, day out. I work for people like Wessex Water, Bristol Water, Gloucestershire County Council, Stroud District Council, and have worked for Somerset, for example, in the past. So we're an independent market research agency. We've offices in Bristol, Cardiff, and Belfast. Isabel asked me if I were asked to do a street lighting survey, how I would do it. Well, I put my thoughts down on paper because I thought it was the best way of you looking at it. And I hope you've had a chance to at least speed read it. I'm sure you're all speed readers. And I'll cover a couple of elements of it. Firstly, the methodology. I believe a drop and collect methodology is the best method. And my reasons for that are explained in the document. I'm happy to take questions on that. And then the questionnaire, I saw the questionnaire being very short, probably something like that folded, very short, very simple, to the point, and 3 elements to it. Firstly, the impact of street lighting, and let me give you, it would be an agree, disagree type question, and it would be things like, do you agree or disagree with the following, and there could be as many statements as you want, but just I'll pick out 2 here or 3. Street lighting makes me feel more secure when walking in the village. And that sets a context for the whole thing. I'm concerned with preserving our dark skies area, so there's bits about the environment there. I would like to see some reduction in the hours that street lighting is on. So that's setting the scene, the impact. Now we move on to the options for testing. And I just proposed 4 options, and these were just out of the top of my head. But part-time lighting seems to be midnight to dawn, and I said, well, option 1 could be everything's turned off midnight to dawn. Option 2 could be 50%, option 3 could be every other, option 4 could be no change. But the way you don't ask a yes-no question for that, this is the trick. There's not a trick, it's how we work with councils. If we want to ask if residents would agree to a council tax rise, we don't ask them, will you pay £4.50 a week more? We ask them how acceptable a range is. And this is a standard methodology, and it's an acceptability scale, very acceptable, quite, neither nor, not at all, and don't know. So you don't, it's all, when I get the 500 questionnaires, it actually gives you what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and gives you very, very clear direction. To put it in context, we developed this for the Good Friday Agreement. I don't think it's as contentious here. It might be. And I presented to Tony Blair and Mo Molam at the time, and they loved the concept because at one extreme you had a United Ireland, the other extreme you had the status quo, and various elements of power sharing were in the middle. And of course, we can see, and we were able to gauge a level of acceptability. So it's a very sound question. And then finally, I would close off, and you might have this at the start, but I took a drive the other night, and Isabel and I went out and looked at the street lights in the village, and my goodness, there's yellow ones and pink ones and blue ones and green ones and purple ones, but there's yellow and there's white, and I just think there needs to be something. Do people really notice the difference? Do they know there's a difference? So I think some questioning from that. So short and simple. My document went to over 2 pages. I apologise for that. I try and do everything in 2 pages right for. And that's really all I have to say. I'm very happy to take questions. I'm very happy to help analyse the results at no cost and produce the report if the survey goes ahead. And to stay basically as an unpaid, unsalaried consultant to help you get this launched if you decide it's something you want to go ahead with.
Nigel, thank you very much. That's incredibly generous of you.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Obviously, it's coming up on the agenda a bit later for us to discuss more. But has anybody got any questions for Nigel at the moment?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Please do.
Nigel, with the options that you've got here, are those, does it have to be like 4 options? I just noticed that one of the options isn't just turn all the lights off, or like that isn't one of the options.
Those are options that came out of my head,
okay.
You know, without debate, without discussion, without anything else. So
Right.
you have editorial control. That's the key. I do what you tell me. I advise you, and if I think something's wrong, I'll tell you, but you'd have editorial control. So you need to come up with the options. And the best way of finding the options is actually Google, because Dover District Councillor somewhere else will have done one of these. I did read the survey that was done by Wells, and I wouldn't recommend you do similar wording. I love this acceptability score, and I think that is a real way of getting real answers. Yes.
Anybody else got questions?
Yep, no one here.
Sure.
Does the public need any context about how much energy would be saved if they all get turned off? I mean, because I'm not sure why they're being turned off. Is it just for light pollution or is it energy saving?
Well, I think
Do they need to know that?
that could be in part of the opening narrative.
Okay.
One of the questions I did, when I was originally doing this, one of the options was saying, this would cost X to do, because each pole apparently needs a timer put in, and it would save Y. Now, if you can do that, that does put it in a cost context and would be very good. But Isabel didn't think that that was feasible at this stage. But that's something we can all discuss later. So the options are yours.
Go ahead, Alistair.
The point, the reason there are different types of lights is because successive, they've put in new filaments which use less energy. So one of the options could be to upgrade them all to
LED.
To use a lot less energy.
Well, they don't need to be white LEDs either.
Yeah.
There are other colours of LED.
So these are all questions and things that we come up with.
Yeah.
We can't base it entirely on the economic side of it.
And we can all have this discussion a bit further.
Yeah.
This is just questions for Nigel at the moment.
No, it's okay. No, I was just going to say what Polly said is that, you know, I mean, if this comes up and then we will look to get a working group going together and then come back with a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, I thought it was excellent.
Okay.
Nigel, thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you for your kind offer.
Thank you, Nigel.
How much 3 minutes do?
Yeah, pretty good. We weren't timing you, but you were
Romantic
pretty,
is the Blarney Stone.
you were pretty good.
And at least you didn't have to say, I'm on mute.
Yes.
One of the most widely used comments. Okay? All right.
Thank you, Nigel.
Bye.
Good evening. We'll send her home soon.
Yeah.
Any other members of the public wanting to speak? I see Sue's over there. Sue, do you want to speak about anything?
Well, I am here about the street lighting.
Okay, you've got 3 minutes if you want to.
Well, I think I'd like to just listen to what everybody else has to say first, because I've been doing some work in parallel, including working on a survey, having done the survey originally in 2003 for the parish plan, and having been a researcher for 40 years also. So I think really at this stage my best bet would be to listen to what everybody else says.
Okay,
And then
and
maybe-
you're obviously aware
I'm
that
in
you
touch
can't
with Isabel
participate.
anyway, so I can talk to Isabel afterwards and see what
Okay,
they
brilliant.
think.
Super. All right, lovely to have you. Thank you. Right. Item number 7, financial matters.
Yes, the council has been checked by the 2 councillors and everything is in order. All put my ballots.
Surely good. Item number 8, to consider a proposal for the Parish Council to take responsibility for ensuring the Christmas street lights and public liability cover. Over to you, Andy.
Right, can I start by saying I'm not looking for any financial input here. This is something that I've been looking at as the only person who seems to be responsible for these at the moment. There's nobody else involved. For me to put these up and insure them means I have to take a personal responsibility, a personal liability. The only way of doing this is either to go down the route of creating a company or an incorporated group of people. So that owns them as an entirety, and that is an entity in its own right. I'm not prepared personally to take the liability that's required. So there is an indemnity statement that Somerset County Council require that says that they are not responsible. I'm not prepared to do that. What I was looking for was the Parish Council possibly to support doing that in some way, shape or form. As I say, it's at zero financial cost because there is money available to cover that.
Okay, I'll open that up to the room.
And I'm trying to look forwards, not
Sure.
backwards.
That's absolutely fine.
Right.
So yeah, I've just got a question if I can.
Yeah.
Obviously if the Parish Council will take on the insurance liability, obviously it's insured liability, but how do we make sure that I suppose the lights are up to standard, that they meet all the kind of requirement? How can the council get comfortable with?
So all the fitting of that is all done in accordance with the Somerset County Council regulations for fitting them. All the paperwork that was submitted, risk assessments, testing on the lights themselves, testing on the pull points on buildings, all those certificates have to be up to date, whether the Parish Council do it or don't do it.
Okay, thank you.
Andy, what sort of bulbs are in these lights?
No idea. What sort of bulbs in the Christmas tree lights?
I don't know, but I might like this,
Yeah, no, I get that.
stringing up the great big lights when
Yeah.
people are wanting lights turned off.
The option is, well, we've got 2 options. We put them up in one way or shape or form, or we don't put them up at all.
Okay, I'll give my 5 pence worth. We originally agreed to give £500 towards the purchase of these Christmas lights. Whatever it was, we made it very clear that we wanted no other form of ownership or anything to do with them because we knew it was going to be a big ongoing cost. I believe it cost £1,000 to put them up, take them down every year. So we didn't want anything to do with it. Therefore, I know that several councillors who aren't here are quite concerned about the fact that we said that was that, nothing to do with us. I think we don't own these lights. I don't know how we can take on the insurance for them.
What's going to happen next year, Andy? You said there's money this year. What's going to happen next year and going forward?
There's £700 in the bank at the moment, so that money will need to be topped up as and when. It's looking for someone as an incorporated association to own them, not to own them, to take out the insurance and cover them from a liability side, rather than me personally.
There's been an appeal in the Isle of Wedmore News for funds for the last couple of months, hasn't there?
There's plenty of money in the bank. £700 in insurance.
Yeah, go ahead, Isabel.
Sorry, can I ask a question? So last year, I know you said don't look back, but who insured them last year?
They were all done on someone's personal liability previously.
Anyone else? Emily?
Oh no, I was just going to ask, the company that puts them up,
Yeah.
we can't use their liability insurance?
So they're covered for putting them up and that sort of thing. So everyone who goes up in the cherry picker and does all that, they're all covered for their aspect of it.
Not
But
once they're up.
it's while they're up, and you know, if we had exceptionally high winds and something came down, I mean they're uninsured. You know, we need to insure them because they are across the road, so they need to be insured. But on top of that insurance, there is always the possibility of a liability afterwards.
Right.
And it's that sort of indemnity of your insurance might have paid you this, but actually you personally sue someone because something's happened to you.
And the difficulty being is we don't own them. So
who does own them then?
A group called Wedmore Christmas Lights or something, which consists of
And they can't.
which consists of me at the moment.
Oh, I see. Okay. But you can't insure them as Wedmore.
You can, but as an unincorporated association, it's still my name that's against them. So there is insurance, but if there was a further legal case, then it would come back to me.
Back to you.
Yeah. So if you have an incorporated one, like a company, then that company owns, takes responsibility, and they get taken to court, and whatever assets are used to pay for whatever. But the personal bit only comes back to you to the tune of £10 or something. Yeah.
But in taking that scenario, if something happens, the liability would be with the parish council then, if something happens?
It would, as a company, which, effectively, because this is an incorporated association, I'm assuming, in some way.
It's a legal entity.
It's a legal entity, yes. It's a legal entity, yes.
Anybody else got any views? Alistair?
Well, we haven't heard what the downside is. If we don't, what are the consequences of not doing it?
Yeah.
At the moment, the lights don't go up.
Yes. And in answer to the question about, I knew the people who originally did them, and the energy consumed is the absolute minimum because they're all LEDs.
I assumed they were, but I didn't know for sure.
Go ahead.
Before these were bought by the previous people, was it in the dark every Christmas, or was there other lights up before that?
There were no lights up.
There was nothing. Oh, it's a whole new thing. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Got any proposals?
Well, I'll propose that we support it.
Sorry.
Alistair's proposing we support it.
Why didn't you say you proposed to support it just this year?
What this is likely to cost?
It's not costing us anything apparently this year. It could in the future cost us money though.
So the proposal is that it doesn't cost things, so they could come under one of the other groups in the village, but if the funds aren't there that are already allocated or aren't there from other places, then you could say there's no future money coming out of the parish council. So it's a zero funded option.
Yeah.
And that would work, I think.
Okay.
I think there's some hoops to jump through before we...
I'm not sure how we can insure something we don't own. That's what gets me.
How are you insuring the Wedmore by that night?
So event insurance is under the name of Lamp Light. You don't need to have, it's just an event insurance.
It wasn't arranged by us at all.
Right.
It's nothing to do with parish council. That insurance was arranged separately.
So maybe there
I
are
personally am
assets
not.
that could be transferred to you at no cost and no.
I don't think we wanted to take them on because then we have to pay the £1,000 every year to take them up and down.
I'm only through back to the minutes of
There isn't £1,000 a year to take them up and down. It's being done for free.
Really?
Yes.
Every year it's going to be done for free?
Right. What's going to happen next year? Who knows?
Yeah, well this is that, and that's the thing, we don't know about it.
Well, yeah, but what? That's a silly question, isn't it, really? How much it's going to cost next year, we don't know.
Well, the whole point was that the parish council said we'd give some funds originally, but that was that.
And that was agreed by the people who bought the lights, that we would be no future commitment to the parish
So
council.
the people who bought the lights have nothing to do with this discussion at all. At the moment.
I can amend my proposal to make it that it applies for 12 months. 1 year.
1 year, this year. Okay. And that then gives time just to decide.
It's so short, doesn't it?
We don't want to be curmudgeonly about Christmas and then it's after COVID, people want to get out and have a bit of fun.
I think that's
Just do it this year. I think see what happens.
that's an acceptable way, not acceptable, that's a good way forward.
Anybody else got anything to say?
We need a
Shall I have a
second.
seconder for Alistair's?
I know we've agreed previously not to support lights, etc., etc., but I do think it's something we should consider in future. I'm not saying right now, but it does add to the atmosphere of the village, and it is part of the parish council's kind of remit to kind of support the community. But I'm not saying we.
If I'd known about the issues earlier, I would have brought it to this earlier. It's only sort of come excuse the pun, come to light recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have bought it sooner, and I know it is a little bit sort of back to the wall with trying to make decisions on things. I realise that.
But yeah.
Just being practical, how are you going to arrange the insurance? If the
I
Parish
can
Council
arrange the insurance, and I can put it in whatever name it needs to go in, and I can pay the insurance. Yes.
Well, no, yes.
Or I can send you the I can. The money's there, and I can send you the policy to have a look at, and you do it that way if you like. Whichever way you want to do it.
Have we got a seconder for that proposal? Jackie, okay. Have we got any, do I vote on that one first, we counter proposals?
So, is there anybody else who wants to make another proposal before we vote on this one?
Don't look like it. Okay.
Well, we have to vote then. A show of hands,
A
please.
show of hands, all of those in favour?
Or the 1 year.
For
For
1 year.
1 year.
Those in favour for 1 year?
It's for 1 year.
Happy Christmas.
Okay. One,
I think that's-
2, 3,
that's a
4,
good
5,
start, yeah.
6. 1, 2, 3, 5,
I
6.
can't vote, can I? I can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can vote.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 in favour. Any against? Any abstentions?
Yeah.
3 abstentions. Okay, so that's carried. So we do it for 1 year only.
So, Ron, if I speak to you in the week and get a chance to speak more, then we can get the details.
Okay, I think that's fine.
Thank you,
Thank
Andy.
Thanks very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Item number 9, to receive an update of the proposed new medical centre. Over to you, Alistair.
Okay, thank you. When I put this forward, there was a particular point in mind, but it's really come to my attention that there's so many stories going round, it would be a good idea to give you a bit more of an opportunity to ask me what's going on. So basically, going on from the meeting where we agreed to support the medical centre with our SIL money, should it come to fruition, since that point we've done a bit of a search on for land and had a very kind offer of some free land at the end of Kelson's Lane. We did realise at the time that there would be issues going through the planning system, and so we decided to go for a pre-application inquiry. That was submitted in August and we had a reply last week, page and a half later.
Long weeks.
Some of the interesting things that were in it were that we needed 3 cycle places. and a few things that were not at the top of our minds just at the moment. Having received that, the working group, which consists of an architect, Bob Selwood, who many of you probably will know, Phil Butterworth, myself, and Alan Benson, who's the chairman of the trust fund, the fund, I used to say that. Shirley Weatherall, who's the secretary, and we're expecting somebody from the medical practice to join us at the next meeting. So where we are now is that we have a better idea of what a planning application will look like. And up to now we're doing everything's been done for free. We've hardly paid for anything. But of course now it really starts to get serious because we've got to produce site surveys, bat surveys, tree surveys, access surveys, drainage surveys and so on. So that work is about to start. One of the things that came up in our discussions was that Kelson's Lane was likely to be one of the difficult points because it's so narrow. And somebody immediately said, well actually, of course the County Council will want a visibility display at the end. So I was given the job of contacting Bill Richardson to sort of talk to him about that landscaped area that they're creating. In writing to him, it occurred to me that actually this is a dangerous spot anyway, and that it would. So what I said to him, we're anticipating that we'll have this requirement for the medical centre, but why not do it now? Get planting around that visibility display. And even if the medical centre doesn't go ahead, it's going to be an improvement for a busy junction, as we all know, with the school and the train and so on. So Bill's agreed to do that, and he hasn't come back with the detail, but I have seen the landscaping plans they have. But what he is proposing is to that land will transfer to a management company, and the management company will be responsible for the maintenance of it. So what we were keen to do was to ensure that Strongbox themselves put that requirement into the requirements of the management company. So he's agreed that, and he's talking to their maintenance people now. One of the things that Bob Selwood did wonder whether we should volunteer to take over that landscape area. Now, I'm not proposing it because it's just something I felt that we might like to think about. I mean, I think my personal view is if they do what they say they're going to do, we don't need to.
Yeah.
But as that, I thought I would put that thought in your mind just in case anybody thinks that would be a good idea. So we are now gearing up to get that planning application in, and it's not going to happen very quickly because nobody's actually tried to design this building. What was shown on the initial plan was just a block of the right sort of size. The other thing we are talking about now is about public information, and one of the things that I've come to realise is that although we all know what surgery is like, the NHS don't know about that. Specifically the clinical commissioning group didn't know that surgery was hardly being used. And so we're going to have to build a case both for the planners and for others to show that there is a good reason for doing this. It's not just, we haven't had the money, let's do something. And the other thing is really to get the public on side fairly soon. Again, we can all assume that they are supportive, but as Bob Selwood would put it, that won't count for anything in a planner's mind unless you can actually produce some evidence that you've actually consulted them. So we're looking to do that in the new year. So that's where we are. I'm not anticipating that bricks are going to start being laid in months and possibly more than a year because of all that work that's got to be done. When we get to the point where planning approval has been achieved, that we then reach the point that Pete Brown described quite well when he was here talking about the funding for the mugger, where he then goes off trying to raise the rest of the money, because although we've got a good chunk of money, which gives certainty to other donors that that this could fly. We've had quite a lot of people coming forward saying they'd be interested in helping in a number of ways. People with diggers saying they'll dig the foundations and so on, and I guess we'll try and use that as much as we can. So the public information thing is going to be quite important. So that's where we are.
Really encouraging, great.
We need to keep an eye on the sill money because it's time.
I have thought about that, Rod, but if Sedgemoor asked to take it away, I think we might get a bit cross about that.
Yeah.
So I have understood you don't necessarily have to physically spend it. You have to have at least earmarked it for things. So I think we have.
Yeah.
So
And there is more to come because stage 3 of Strongbox site, that one, we're on 25% on that one. So there will be more to come, but Rod informed me of the latest cheque to arrive on the sale. We're just short of 100,000 now, just very, very close.
It's great.
Yeah, Alistair, we might have covered this before, so who owns the current surgery?
Who owns
The current surgery.
One of the difficulties that the doctors have been having is that I'm told that they have large mortgages on it.
Right.
And as a result, they find it difficult to get new partners because
Yeah.
one going out wants to
Yeah.
pass on the mortgage
Yeah.
to another. So they are going to be delighted to get rid of it. Whether there's a gap which is funding which we don't really know the answer to that.
Right.
But but the answer is it will go.
And it's mortgaged up to the hill, so we've got problems.
And is that the same with the
Well, you know how
Axbridge?
much it's sold
Is
for,
that-
how much
yeah,
it's
it's
worth,
also
anyway.
more.
Yeah, it's public knowledge.
The
The
Axbridge
doctors have got
half
the
of
money.
it.
Well, no.
Sorry.
Nobody's chatting.
I've asked about Axbridge. I mean, that will stay.
But is that owned by?
I doubt
it's the
it was
same-
built as a health centre, so I imagine that was built by the NHS. I mean, the whole purpose of this exercise for the fund is to put that money into something for which they can get an income. So in this case, this is one of the reasons we want the clinical commissioning group on side, because they decide how much rent they can pay. But that will support the fund into the future. The Axbridge surgery, I'm told, was built as a purpose-built health centre, I imagine by the NHS, and the intention is that the administrative side will stay there, so we don't have to provide that extra space for their records. The space we provide will be defined by the clinical commissioning group, who've already sent us a sort of quite a long list of all the requirements for all the little rooms and things. Interesting, more video conferencing rooms.
That's good.
Brilliant, thank you, Alistair.
Okay.
Thank you for the update, that's
Can I
great.
just ask one question, Madam
Please
Chairman?
do.
We had a presentation, I suspect it's 2 years ago, now, from representatives of the doctors. Just to clear things, who will own it? Whose name does it go in when it's...
Right, okay, so there is something called the Wedmore and Axbridge Health Fund, which is a registered charity, and they exist to help both the practice in terms of that extra bit of kit that they might like that the NHS won't provide, but they also help patients who have special needs. And it's existed, I understand, for about 30 years, so it's not nothing new. And they will own that building, and the doctors will pay a rent to that fund, as they would if they rented any building. And that rent presumably comes from the NHS in some form or another.
Go ahead.
You mentioned a while ago that it was a company that actually builds these off-site sort of modular.
Yes.
Surely that cost is quite easy to work out. It's not like starting from just one brick in a corner of a building and it can vary because prices of materials go up. Do they know how much it's going to cost?
Well, we have some ideas of what it will cost, but the point is that until you know what your planning requirements are, so if we have to build a new road for Kelson Lane, that's a cost. The number of car parking spaces will be a cost. So those are things that will change and so we've got the planning approval, we can't say that. As Pete Brown was saying about going to donors for money, if you can say it's going to cost, let's say £1 million, we've got £500,000 in the bank, then the donor makes a donor, these are talking about the big donors, are making a decision about that funding that gap. What you don't want to do is to go along and say, actually, it's 1.25 million and we need another $250,000. That's really puts donors off. So that's why Pete Brown does it the way he does it, because he starts with us and then went to all the others in a row.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Alistair.
Okay.
Item number 10 is Wedmore street lighting. Isabel.
Yep, that's me. So you've heard from Nigel tonight. Those are a few of the preliminary thoughts we have on the street lighting questionnaire. and how to quantify a definite result on street lighting for Wedmore. This needs to be discussed. Perhaps also we should take the views of our parishioners, which might even take on maybe a form of an open day that come meet Parish Council and also have other things on at that open day. There is costs associated with this, the printing of the questionnaires and perhaps data processing. So I think a preliminary budget would be about £2,000. After the results, and if it's the will of the Wedmore residents, to have every lamp rewired, and there's 230 of them, costs £20,000 roughly. After speaking with Phil Green, who is the Senior Lighting Engineer of Somerset County Council on Monday, he has said that Somerset County Council is committed to carbon neutral by 2030. This commitment is to have all street lighting replaced by 2030, and this will be low wattage LED. When it first came out, the council used 24 watts, but now with new technology the bulb wattage is down to 16. He also pointed out that it's the county council's policy is to ensure the street lighting reflects the safety of all residents, especially the lone female. At the moment they're putting more lights up than taking them down at the minute. He also stated that all Somerset County Council consumption of electricity uses green renewable suppliers. He couldn't tell me when we might get our lights changed by the County Council. He said it could be a year, 2 years, 8 years. He just couldn't say. And he couldn't commit to me to tell me when that our village could actually get done.
Does Somerset County Council have to do it?
Yes.
It's their property.
Yes, it's their property. Yeah, they own them. Yeah. I've had emails from on street lighting from Green Wedmore, and also a proposal via Sue Rippon on a survey on a wider brief for communities' attitudes towards climate change. This wasn't really my remit, or as a subcommittee, street lighting. I'm not even sure if it's a parish council attitude survey. As far as I know, that this should be probably at county council level, climate attitudes. But all I want to take from this meeting is what do we do next? Where should we go next? What is our objective? Should we stick with street lighting, and are we going to do that? Are we going to spend our parishioners' money when it actually county council might spend it anyway, the conversion? There is the downsides, of course, which means that we won't, LED doesn't, it still affects maybe dark skies, light pollution, although there is now, the LED lights are getting better, and I don't know if we can actually specify what we want.
God,
So
tricky one.
I'm looking for way to go.
Okay, questions?
Well, maybe we should say, I think it's something we should keep moving forward with. I think you've done some great work. I know you've reached out to other parties that the council said we have to reach out to. So I think that's kind of, to me, I think we need to keep progressing. I think the idea of doing an open day is one that we should pursue.
Really
I think it's not just on street lighting, as you say. It's on a number of issues, including the stuff that's being raised, and I think getting other groups such as Green Wedmore involved in that open day to touch on climate as well as other things that we're doing. I think would be a great idea if we could support that. Again, happy to run with that. I think we then just have to progress. I think when we get to that, is it £2,000? Is it £200? I think we can then make that decision as part of that cost, and it may be something that we can fundraise elsewhere. I'm sure Green Wedmore will be keen to support that more broadly as well. The £20,000, that has to come from us. That even though we don't own it, it can't come from Somerset.
Yes, and he made stress that if we decide that we want to change it back, we also have to trump up the cost for changing it back.
I suppose it's, for us, it might be when we get to that survey point, actually writing a disgruntled email to the council asking them to change their policy on street lighting. So, for example, Bristol have changed all their street lighting to not be on overnight. And I think it's a bit it's very archaic of Somerset to not have that policy. So.
He did say that when you look, you think it's actually going to cut costs, but it doesn't, because they're using low energy, not low energy lighting, but low peak lighting, electric. So there's no cost saving for park time lights.
No, I think there's a number of
it's the carbon emissions, of
Yes,
course.
it's not necessarily just financial
No,
savings,
no,
is it? It's all of the other things.
Yes,
So,
that's it, exactly.
yeah. And the 20,000, that would be because we would have to have them rewired for them even to be turned off at a certain time and turned back on.
Exactly. They're on a sensor at the minute from dawn to dusk, and every single light would have to be changed.
What about cell money? Do you think we could use cell money for that?
You'd have thought so, wouldn't you?
I'm not convinced.
I don't know, but I think when you have to get to that point.
Yeah,
let's take a step at a time.
I actually think it's maybe a wider sort of subject, maybe, that we should be looking at, and maybe an open day in the new year is maybe more of a vehicle for that.
As a start, bear in mind we've got 2 more estates going into the village. Should they not have?
They have. They've got this latest LED
but should you say to them, you wire them for time at this point in time? They might not use them, but they're wired for future rather than spending more money on each lamppost.
Yeah. So Somerset County Council doesn't adopt them until the whole phases are all finished. So they have no ownership. They can specify LED light, but the actual people who build can pick whatever lights they want or what they look like.
And they're not going to spend extra money, are they?
No.
Okay, interesting. Well, this one's going to run for a bit, but
But the questionnaire, I think, is a really good idea. We should definitely work together, and I think work with Green Wedmore to make sure that we're getting a good survey out to everyone in Wedmore.
A question you can ask the public. Do you just want them all turned off?
I think that's definitely an option. It definitely is. You know, the options that Nigel had come up were only ones that sort of both of him and I had rattled off with you, and he had come up with something. So, you know, we're in an early stage, and I think we also have to have public participation as well.
We spent a week in Norfolk in a village over half term. It was lovely to see the stars and not have orange glow. Which I know is from Cheddar and everywhere else, but
I think that, I mean, we've talked about having this meeting, right, this open meeting, and we can have a set of questions there. Because sure as X is X, I mean, there's going to be something that we, or between us, don't think about. And we can take a straw poll from members of the public that come through the door there. And by the time we've got, 10% of the village through, or however many come down, we'll already have a feel, and then we can just just blast it out after that. Because we're not talking about hanging around at this meeting either, are we? I mean, if we get that going in the first quarter next year, and
people are supportive of it.
We can get the village hall for a reasonable rate.
And then let's see if we can nudge the booking section.
Can I just clarify, are we just moving ahead with street lighting in a small questionnaire? Because that's what Highways has asked as part of the conditions, that that the residents come back with 60% say, turn everything off. They need the definitive answer.
I think keep it simple.
Right, okay.
I think so.
People don't know where to pick up.
Then we can phase through the other ones.
I know that Nigel was, he had also said maybe in 6 months' time we could maybe ask another question about something, you could do a small survey again, of something, I don't, something topical,
So everyone generally happy that?
Everyone.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you as well, good work. Item number 11, play area repairs. JF. Over to you, JF.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
So every year there's an annual inspection carried out on the play areas, and this highlighted various works that needed to be done.
This all relates to Wedmore. It is primarily the fireman's pole has corroded, which was obviously unsafe. New wet pole, which is the rubber matting underneath, so that it doesn't get all dirty. That's also probably expensive. And new fittings for the swing seats and regular seat. And for the Burma Bridge, which is a little wooden walkway thing. So this is all just repairs for works that have been highlighted under the health and safety report.
Okay. And the bills have been paid?
The bills have not been paid.
Oh, this is all.
why I'm coming to you.
I did pay 4 this week, and I think we've been hanging on since months ago.
Oh, that was for the fencing at Blackford.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
John only issued the invoice after he'd done the work, which it took him a long time to get hold of the chain fence.
Looks great.
Great, okay.
So Jeff, did you say that was being repaired because it was dirty?
No, it had been damaged.
Oh, damaged.
Yeah, so it's to stop it becoming a mud soup underneath the swings. Which the kids would probably love, but the parents not so much.
Has the work been done, Jackie?
The work has been done,
Okay, thank you.
and we've been backwards and forwards to them on a few occasions on various bits and pieces.
I would say Blackford Park looks really great now.
It does.
It's fencing, you can see it, it's looking really tidy, it's
That's
great.
great, yeah.
It's good news. Brilliant.
Bills to be played on this, but the bills
Bills
to
to
be
be
paid.
played in the play areas. Brilliant, Jackie, thank you.
So shall I pass this on to Rob?
Yeah, give
Pay
it
them
to
tomorrow,
Clark.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 12, to agree the annual burial
Yeah,
grants.
we normally give a £100 grant to the Methodist Church, Theale and Blackford churches and to St Mary's, and then we deduct from St Mary's the cost of cutting the cemetery, which is an annual event that they pay us back for that.
Okay.
So I just want approval to pay £100 to the churches as normal, please.
Yeah, everyone in favour?
Thank you very much. Thank
Good
you.
stuff. Item number 13, to agree to pay for mince pies at the church on lamplight evening as usual.
Well, this is just so that everybody who's new to the council realises that the parish council does take part in the little carol service that they have at the church prior to lamplight starting. And it's always been customary for the parish council to supply the mince pies for this little event at the church. And so I go and buy them and heat them up on arrive at the church, and then they're given out. So it's about £25 it costs.
Good God, fuss.
I mean, can we afford it?
Glenys, do you need me to come and help you hand them out?
I don't mind, you can if you want. I mean, to be quite honest, it's useful to have somebody to help get them down to the church, but it's a lot of hanging around, to be quite honest. I've got my little assistant that does come and help.
Okay, well if you've
because
got
she
an
heats
assistant,
up half of them.
lovely.
I
If you've
can't
got
get
an
them all in
assistant,
the
that's
oven.
fine. I'll bring you a thermos of mulled wine.
You turn up at the church, we'll talk about it before, but thank you for your offer.
That's quite all right.
It's a lot of
I think,
hanging
does
around.
everybody agree we pay that?
Yeah.
That's cost, brilliant, good stuff.
Do you have to look down, it does contain parish council nuts?
Well, item number 14, suggested forest school at Worthington Woods. Over to you, DC.
Yeah, hi. So, been speaking to the lady who runs the forest school currently, was based in Axbridge, then here. Basically, due to land being sold, she's currently not going to have a forest school for the local kids. So, talking to Green Wedmore, and obviously we have responsibility for the land overall. So, I wanted to bring attention. We'd like to basically have her run her forest school from Worthington Woods 1 day a week, maybe 2, but currently it's planned only 1 day. I thought, given it's been converted into a nice kind of wooded area with, you know, and we talked earlier this year about having something for kids, and it's quite a good event. So I just wanted to put that out there. If anyone had any objections to that happening, essentially.
Questions?
Sure, absolutely.
What about toilet facilities?
She's never needed them before. So.
No, but if children are going down there, I mean, I just think it might be a big problem. I don't know, they're going to town.
For young children, it is a problem.
Well, we can't provide toilet facilities,
No.
and there's
No, I know we can't.
public days in the village, so they'll all have to go for a trip to the village.
That's not my point. My point is, if you offer a service like that, and parents got to go all that way, and there's a 5-year-old who wants to do forest school, it's just something to bear thinking about. I mean,
No, it's literally an hour.
After school.
They're there for an hour.
Well, it's for kids in nappies usually, it's during school
I was
time.
saying,
question, I'm not sort of,
There isn't a requirement for toilet facilities though.
She wouldn't have had toilets where she was doing
No,
it before. would
Never
she?
had, no.
Okay, anyone, I don't think we've got any objections with her using it, have we? What a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Alistair?
Yeah, I wasn't going to object. It was really, I'm just trying to imagine the concept. So is it just children wandering around what's there already and nothing changes?
Is that nothing changes? Yes, she normally just plays games with them. You know, has a little kind of hot chocolate for them, and yeah.
I hear the term all the time, but I never knew what it was.
Sorry?
A little similar.
Yeah, exactly. That little sing along. Yeah.
Lovely, I think that's nice. Everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Good news. Lovely, thank you. Item 15, wind project planning application DC.
Yeah, so this was one of our higher priority items we prioritised earlier this year. So we obviously applied for a grant with Green Wedmore, and that grant was given. So I think we got about £8,000, and we've been through the first stage of feasibility study for the project. So I think we're really lucky. Green Wedmore's got a lady called Sonia, this is what she does for a living as a solicitor. So she really knows her stuff. Essentially the process is an initial feasibility study, contacting local landowners to understand kind of feasibility of land, etc. We then go through an initial planning application to find out if there's any local planning restrictions, a bit like you've done for the surgery. And then, just like done for the, we probably will do for the surgery, is then there is essentially a consultation period. So we're not at the public consultation period yet, because obviously you need to understand whether something's feasible before you speak to the community. But essentially we're at the phase now of wanting to go through a planning application, which we're proposing to do through the Parish Council, as we have for the grant, as we have for the rest of it. So again, it was just making sure everyone's comfortable with that. But yeah, so public consultation will happen, and hopefully if we did this open day, it will be part of that, so people can come and we can point to what it is and isn't. Obviously we've got a... Yeah, so it's bigger than the one that's up by the golf course at the moment. But again, we can that can be all mapped out so people can have their say and view on that as well. But it's literally just, we're very much in the feasibility point at the moment.
Power.
Sorry?
We're just the power again. Green?
Yes, exactly. But so it's very similar to what's happening at the moment with the community energy with the solar farm. So yeah,
it's a revenue generator.
Well, yes, but yeah, through the same scheme. So again, giving back money to the community. The idea being it should generate enough electricity to power all of Wedmore and the Christmas lights. Yeah. But all of Wedmore essentially. So the idea being is, in theory, Wedmore generates enough green energy to cover all of Wedmore's energy needs, and therefore from a net zero perspective, it looks very good that we're able to do that. And that's
I just wondered physically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. So it's all connected to the grid the same way it is. Again, that's part of the
doctor's car park.
Yeah. So again, it's a very, that's part of feasibility. Is what facilities do you have available currently? What's the loading?
So I don't know. There will be some people who remember the big uproar last time one of those was proposed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was Denby's place.
I don't know what the history of that one was, but yeah, it might be worth addressing some of those concerns.
And they will be part of the conversation, but I think you need to go through is this even possible before you start that?
Well, it's one of those things that might be worth looking. I don't know how the concerns were raised previously, but it might be worth looking at those just to.
They're
if you've got them.
Yeah, they're part of that process. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted to.
The other thing is that I heard a presentation on the solar farm and how that came about, and that was really interesting. Of an enterprise and raise the capital through local people, and is now delivering in every way.
Yeah, and it gives great grants to local events. Yeah, fantastic.
Is it worth talking to them to sort of?
It's the same people.
So it's the same people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly the same people.
I've got a quick question.
change terms. The existing one up by the golf course, is
Yeah.
that also a community owned?
No, it's privately owned.
That's
David
privately
Henry
owned.
owns that.
Oh, right, okay.
He had all sorts of problems with planning. People complain about the noise, but that's going back a time. I think things have changed now.
Yeah, so there was a period where, particularly in the UK, onshore wind farms were just a big no-no. That's why there's so much offshore. That's been changed now. That's very much looking at what we can do onshore, particularly after what's happened over the last year with the lack of wind offshore. So, and again, I think it's just having diversity of energy supply. Is the new. So, but yeah, so it's just support for the pre-app through the councils as part of our ongoing support of that initiative. So,
Okay. Everyone happy?
Yeah.
Cool, good stuff. Thank you, David. Item number 16 to...
What should we got in this? Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, go on.
to approve amendments to policies and terms of reference.
Yes, well, they were all circulated last week. I do need to change one thing in planning.
Okay.
I think Judy pointed out we don't make any reference to the neighbourhood plan in the planning terms of reference.
Oh.
So I'll put that in, and but that's the only thing that we've had. So if everybody's happy.
Is everybody happy with the amendments?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Super. Thank you, teams, for all your work.
I have good news on that topic. Is the next one coming out, and I'll send it this weekend. Is the standing orders. It's a fairly brisk, short document of several sections, but yeah. So we've basically aligned everything with the NAUC document, but I'll send it out this weekend. And we'll bring it down to the December meeting for again, hopefully.
But again, all of you who've sat endlessly going through these things and sorting them out, thanks very much.
Very good.
Yeah, it is very good.
A lot of bottles of wine.
Yes, so I've heard. Brilliant.
All these policies, open meetings and new meetings, they're all available
on the website.
on the website, yes.
There will be.
Yeah.
Okay, item number...
Sorry, can I just say on that, we are looking at getting a new website as well, so that is all part of this new policies thing.
Yeah.
And we've approached people and just waiting for some more confirmation, and then, I mean, that might come at the next meeting as well, quickly for you to all look at, and we can move that forward, because I think that's quite a quick process once we give that.
Don't want to too big an agenda for December.
I know you don't, you want the mince pies, I know. But as long as everybody reads it and comes back to us beforehand, it won't take long time.
No, exactly. Cool. Item number 17, issues and questions raised by councillors. David?
Nothing for me, thank you.
What's your name? Glenys? This is a road test.
You're sat in the wrong seat.
Nothing at all, yes. Jackie?
Quick question, I'm not sure whether Alistair can help. Any idea why there's a gap in the yellow lines? Was there a car park there?
Yeah, exactly. I happened to be driving. I was driving past at the time, and I saw them turn up, and I thought to myself, "There's that one car. How do they deal with it?" And now I know. They don't.
And now you know that one car will park there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
their space now.
And because they've done Granville Road, I mean, what they've done outside the village hall is great, because although there is the gap, it creates a lot of space there now. They didn't do the Providence House because there were cars parked there as well. But no, I was pleased to see that.
Well, yeah, so they're chancing their luck just turning up and doing it, are they not? So Jackie, that was you. Have you finished? Anything else?
Whose responsibility, where the bench is on Cheddar Road, got a lovely bench that looks into the hedge.
Yes, a great hedge to look into.
So the farmer's cut his hedge, but you still can't see.
I can't think how we don't own the hedge.
Right.
But I do get Will to come along, and he's just struggling around it, and I get him to cut it down a bit now and again.
Yeah.
But we can't, not no control over that. I think in times gone by there was an open view, but now the hedge has grown up. And it's not our hedge, we can't be cutting other people's hedges.
Who owns it?
Just get Healy.
Healy, okay, so maybe we could approach Jess and say, could you cut it so we can have a view?
They've
Who
had
wants to
the
do
whole
that?
They've had the whole lot cut recently, all along there.
Okay. It might be worth mentioning. If anyone's
Or we just let the bench dire.
Well, it just, people use it, I mean, cyclists use it every day. There's people that,
They're not looking in the hedge. Maps? Emily? Sean?
Just a question for Alistair. There was a couple of parishioners at the field show asking about the speed awareness camera on the field part of town. Any progress?
Well, yes. The county council have delivered on the yellow lines. They haven't delivered yet on the posts. It's something that I constantly go back to our traffic manager and to David. And I can't say, the plan is to rotate. And when the posts are there, we will do it. A difficult situation has arisen. For those of you who've driven through Blackford recently, you will see that there are two signs up close to in the proximity of where that accident happened. Now they're both being put up on posts that were not deemed to be suitable, but because of sensitivity, this chap who's organised that, they've left them there. But that's doubly galling for us that we could do that, but we've signed a pledge saying we won't, and one hoped that we would be in a better position than we are at the moment. But the lady, the traffic manager, was away for 2 weeks, and she told me when she came back she had 300 emails in her inbox. So just give you some idea of the sort of pressure.
That's just from Wedmore.
299 from me, yeah, that's right.
Alistair, have you got anything?
Well, I was just going to mention that you've probably noticed the Blue Cedar site has come up in terms of activity all of a sudden. And for my sins, I seem to have got the legal documentation which allows them to dig up across the entrance to the car park from Worthington Close to connect the sewer from the site to the sewer that runs into the sewage works, which is on the other side of the car park. We did a deal with them that they would pay us £3,500 and they would provide all the signage. They offered us a larger sum if we did the signage, but we rather took the view that that's a bit dangerous because if the signage isn't right, then we're allowed all lower than they are. It occurred to me that, of course, everything in their legal documentation was about cars going into the car park. They were diverted round. It occurred to me that, of course, when you get out of your car, where'd you go? So I've been back to them and said, that's really not satisfactory because it means going out onto the Cheddar Road where there's no pavement for a short length. And I'm pleased to say that they have relented on that and they're going to maintain a footpath connection to Worthington Close. So we're now ready to sign that, and that documentation should be arriving with Rod the next day or two, which will be the deed of easement and the section something or other to enable them to lay. So that's imminent. I don't have a date when that will happen, but at least it looks now as if it's going to be fairly soon.
Good. Brilliant. Peter, anything?
No.
No. Andy?
Three very quick ones. I've noticed there's a new sign in action. Thank you. Look how it got organised.
Great.
Taking like 4 or 5 years, but it's there. Thank you. I don't know if people are aware the Summermead Guides field is up for auction. So that whole facility, I don't know what funding has been put into it from various places, but it's being sold on the 16th of December.
Somebody's already written and asked if the Parish Council could tell them whether it would be suitable for a small holding, and I just said, you speak to Sedgemore.
It's up for public auction, guide prices, well, let's be honest, the starting price is 200,000, there's a building on it. It's going to be worth whatever someone wants to pay for it.
The building's been condemned, which is why it's been sold.
And the new toilets have been not condemned. And the final one is, I know that my first meeting here, Parish Council were keen on supporting various things around the village, the 3 main ones being the street fair, Harvest Home and the lamplights. It's really a question to be thinking about on the Harvest Home. It was, I need to, at some point the Harvest Home want to understand what that sort of support might look like. Whether it was cover for the road closures, or whether the best thing to do is apply to you for grants, apply to us for grants. Or
We've never supported a Harvest Home.
It was said that there were 3 key events in the village, and they were ones that you were keen to not necessarily support, monetary-wise, but support as in keep it running for the village, because it was said, it was here when it was said. And it's whether if there is any monetary side of it, whether the approach is to come in with a proposal and see whether you would support it.
Yeah, we've got grants with
Got a grant.
That's fine, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's the same as any other one would be, but obviously those are the three key events that we, as a parish council, want to encourage to carry on.
Yeah,
That's a better way of wording it.
Yeah.
okay, thank you. Isabel?
No, nothing from me.
Mr Curley?
No, not tonight.
Nicholas?
I've got one here from Sue Worrell. She says that Leslie Nichols up in Middle Lane lives on a site where there was no windmill once upon a time, and she could have put a map up there to explain to the walkers all about it. It's what to do for us. I don't think it's anything planning permission, but it'd be in her garden, but visible to the people who walk up the lane.
Okay. Super dupes. Lovely. Right. Correspondence number 18.
All been done. You've had everything.
Done. 19 committee reports. Cemetery.
Yeah, that's looking okay out there, the hedges have been cut. There's a couple of trees that I'm looking at, but there's some job down there to do that. We'll look at those sometime soon. But yeah, it looks all right out there for the moment.
Good, thank you. Facilities, allotments, footpaths and green issues.
Julie's not here for allotments, but I know there's been a bit of a switch around
Yes.
this week with a couple. Sadly, Francis Frost is giving up his.
Okay. Gosh, give me a battle for that
It's
one.
gone already.
It's gone already. But yeah.
They've got some work to do to maintain that one the same level.
Is it you?
That's not me.
Oh.
We're lower down.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
The old core mill has got it. She's given up hers. So.
I know that all the hedges have been cut down there and everything.
Yeah.
And the only thing she was talking to me about the other day was that we were going to put the cost of the...
Yeah, it's on the agenda for next meeting.
Okay, cool, brilliant, yeah. Cool, brilliant. Finance general purposes.
Yeah, meeting on the Wednesday the 1st of December.
Yeah, okay.
Discuss the budget for next year.
Okay, housing, highways, car park and brook.
Well, nothing that hasn't already been reported. I did circulate an email to the members of the group suggesting that we create subgroups. The purpose would be to separate speed, traffic volume, HGVs and all that stuff away from the sort of more softer side of things where we try and persuade people to behave in a different way. Sort of, I call it education, but walking and cycling rather than using the car to go quarter of a mile to the shops and that sort of thing. It's a big group, so I think we could easily get those subgroups working in a way that would generate more than twice a year meetings.
Yeah, I think certainly if we do go ahead and have this open day, that we should have some big headline data available for the people that come through to have a look at and see how shameful some of the speeds around the village really are.
Yeah.
Of course, it won't be anybody that comes in there, it'll be people from Cheddar, but sorry, that wasn't personal.
It's fraud.
That does remind me, I've been thinking of writing something for the Wedmore News around this idea that who are these people who are speeding? Well, I guess most of us think it's people from Blackford or Mark, or they're coming from Cheddar or Glastonbury. But who are the people speeding through Glastonbury and all these other places?
People from Cheddar.
It just seems to me that when we can record 50% of the people passing the Cheddar one are doing more than 30 miles an hour. It isn't just odd straight people.
The girl on the motorcycle with a speed camera was there twice last week, once by the cemetery, once by the old school, to get people coming out of it.
So if I wrote something, do I need to get it past somebody or do I do it in my own note?
Do it, yeah. We'll do it as chair of...
That's fine.
Who are you planning on writing to, sorry?
Just do it, that's you.
Parish Council.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alice, I'll catch up with you on what we can put into an open event. I think there's some of the projects as well, I think it'd be great.
I don't need any more.
You're doing an outstanding job. Planning.
Tuesday, the 7th of December, the night before Lamplight.
Okay. And human resources.
Human remains.
No, we've discussed what's going on and what we're doing for next month, yeah.
Cool.
Probably we'll get together.
Reports from representatives and committees, Isle of Wedmore News.
I had a meeting last week, all is well. I mean, do you want me to send minutes round to everybody? I mean, all these meetings, that, you know, we have minutes that I can send you out if you want.
Not really worried. Anybody particularly want to see the Isle of Wedmore News minutes?
Just a synopsis.
You're doing a great job.
Everything's okay. Everything's
Everything
okay.
is under control.
The latest issue looks very nice with the
It was good.
Parish
Yeah.
Council.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Play areas, what's happening with play areas? We've got the survey. Yes, although I'm the committee representative, then you take over.
Sorry, I was just wondering whether there's any merit in the fact that as the Parish Council is the leaseholder on all the play areas, whether we should actually have a more formal footing and whether the play area should actually come in under one of the formal committees for the play area, for the council.
That was going to be my question actually, because
Highways, car park group and play areas.
Yeah, it could be, because it's quite a big,
Or
it's a
facilities.
facility, isn't it?
Yeah.
We could give it to Judy.
She's done that.
she's
not here.
Oh, yeah.
So facilities, allotments, footpaths, green issues and play areas.
I
Well,
think
facilities.
it's a facility, isn't it? So
Yeah, it is a facility, so yeah, we could do.
and that way, you know, it is just a bit more formal. We can carry on with the committee for the play areas as is, because we have councillors on, on that. And we're allowed to have non-councillors.
Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Cool. And play areas, we've got this survey out at the moment, so we're hoping people will fill that in about the new play area across farm.
Is that on Facebook being advertised or?
It's on the play area page. Yeah, Facebook page.
Okay.
You must be a member of
I am not, no.
You
I will
what?
look it up and fill out what
Okay.
I
And they're currently, I was meant to meet on site with the guys who are sort of doing the mounds with the earth, we're just moving the earth around, but actually there's no real point because we have not got to a stage with the play area committee where we've got a plan of what's going well, how we're doing it, so you know, we haven't got a future plan yet, have we, Jackie, of how we're mapping it out, so I just let them do it and we'll crack on. Yeah, lots of work's been done and it's good.
It's all starting to look quite tidy.
Yeah, it's all looking nice. Salk?
No.
No.
Salk?
Sorry, Somerset Association of Local Councils. It's an advisory group called the Advised Parish Council. We play at the summer every year.
Wedmore Parish Management, Babs and Dave?
No, nothing.
No, nothing. Village Halls, Pete?
Yes, village hall's up and running well. Yeah, a lot of bookings and a lot of thanks to the play area as well, because since that's been obviously spruced up, but really put good fencing round and whatever, it just makes it look so much. Yeah, it's fine. Really good.
It's done a good job, hasn't it?
Really good job. Good. Phil, Sean?
Yeah, there's a new EV charging point on the wall at Village Hall. There's also solar panels. I don't get the defibrillator mixed up with the EV charging point. Light in the dark. Okay, they're close to one another. Yeah. So no cars have ever used it yet, but it's there.
It's there. Very good. Alistair?
The AGM tomorrow afternoon, other than that, the chairman's thinking of standing down. I don't know if anybody knows anything who wants to take this on.
Okay.
That's all.
Super, thank you.
David.
David?
No, well, I was just
You
going to say...
We're not volunteering.
No, absolutely not. I was going to read.
You've retired now, haven't you?
No, I was just going to... was that the end of all the...
No. So excited, aren't we?
Sorry.
Twinning.
No, Julie's not here. So
Judy's not here.
My printer's ready.
Green Wedmore, sorry, I forgot to mention Green Wedmore should be on here.
It's a,
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
on the
page.
No, what next page?
Yes,
So on that one, I think we've been through most of the
Green
points.
Wedmore?
So we've been through most of the points that was a meeting, we've been through some higher priorities of their game priority per group or whatever they look at, but most of them have been discussed this evening.
Lovely. What's next on the agenda? Because I don't have the next
No,
page.
I was just going to say on committees.
Oh, yeah.
On committees, I don't know if anybody caught that it was the bus AGM last night,
Oh, the community bus.
and they were after a whole bunch of people, but
Yeah,
They're still wanting more drivers.
yeah, I think
Voting.
I just reading the Facebook or whatever it was, Sue pointed in my direction. They've more or less filled all the committee, but they're still looking for bus drivers.
Okay.
If
Anybody
knows-
watching tonight? Bus drivers, please.
Bus drivers.
Your community bus would be great.
I'll probably stick my hand up and say a bit.
Brilliant. Item 20, matters of report and items for the next meeting. Please get them. I'll just remind you that we like a nice quick one, as you all know, in December, because we have a little drink and mince pies and some nibbly bits after, so we like to make that a quick one as it's a festive time. And that's it, and I will close the meeting at 9:45. Thank you all for attending.